Now we will go to Valentina from Sputnik. Valentina, can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for taking my question. I would like to hear WHO's opinion regarding the recent study by the Stanford University. It hasn't been peer-reviewed yet, but it is based on antibody samples from some 3,000 people in California and suggests that the actual number of COVID-19 cases may be 50 to 85 times higher than the official figure. You previously said that we might be missing out some mild cases, but does WHO have any data or reason to believe that the actual number might be so much higher? And could it mean that we are on the track to get so-called herd immunity across the globe? Thank you very much.
So thank you for the question. So yes, we are aware of a paper that's been put in pre-publication. So this is on one of those online servers that some researchers put their papers on before they go through peer review. And it is a paper that looks at antibody levels in Santa Clara, California. This is one of many studies that is currently underway, that is currently in pre-publication, which is attempting to look at the presence of antibodies in individuals in different countries. And so the goal of this study is to be able to detect unrecognized cases that may have been missed through current surveillance systems, which is now how cases are being picked up through molecular testing or the PCR testing. So this study is one of many which has suggested that there's a proportion of the population who have antibodies to COVID-19. I'm not going to comment specifically on what percentage this study had, but what I can say is that a number of studies, which we are aware of, again, in pre-publication, we haven't seen the full details of all of these papers, have suggested that a small proportion of the population, a few percentage in the single digits, up to 14% in one study that we've seen in Germany, have antibodies to COVID-19. So that means that they have evidence of past infection. It doesn't mean active infection. It means that they had infection at one point in time. What is really important for us to be able to do to put these numbers into context is to understand how the studies were done. For example, how did they find people to test? Where did they look for those subjects? Is it a random selection of people in the population? Does it come from blood donors who tend to be healthy adults? What types of tests did they use? What types of antibody tests did they use? And how well do those tests actually perform in terms of being able to measure what those tests say that they're able to measure? And then, of course, there's many other methodological issues that need to be assessed when looking at these types of studies. So what we are doing is we are working with a number of countries right now who are carrying out these sero-epidemiologic studies. We've helped to provide some methodology to carry out these studies in terms of what are the good types of studies, what are the robust methods that can be used. We are working with these countries on validated serologic assays to be able to test for those antibodies. And then with those results, we put those into context. I think initially, with some of these early studies, we see a lower proportion of people with measured antibodies than we were expecting, I think. And it indicates that a lower number of people are actually infected. And so I think before we go too much into detail into what this means, I think we need to have a better understanding of how all of these studies were done and to put these into context over a large number of studies across multiple countries.